Hello everybody. So, wanted to talk today about Sam Constance, who's an Australian cricketer, been opening the batting. He's just played his 5th test, and he's 3rd in a row, and this was the whole of the series against West Indies, in West Indies. So I wanted to talk about how he's going and what I think we should do with him. Should we persist with him, or should we dump him? And if we do dump him, what should happen with him and who should replace him? So, first thing I want to note, I'm going to put this into full context because I don't think it's fair to just go straight up and say, oh, we just got a duck, so therefore he should be dumped. Or he just got, I think he got 17 in the first innings of the 3rd test. 17 and 0 is not great. Should we dump him on that? I don't even want to look at the average. I want to look at the full context. So the full context is that this is his first full season of top-level cricket. So not only the first level of test cricket, first year of test cricket, but the first year even of first-class cricket. I think he played maybe 2 matches last season, but this is the first time he's played the full season. So he's 19 years old. He's very, very, very inexperienced. He made his one-day domestic and his T20 debuts this year, and he made his Australia A debut, and then he made his Test debut. So did it all in the last year. So we got to pay attention to that. And the only reason really that he made it as far as he did is because since David Warner retired in 2024, so a year ago, we have not had a replacement. So since David Warner retired, we had who came in next? Well, then we didn't have an answer, so Steve Smith went in to open. He actually did pretty well, and then that made it through to the series against India, which was in Australia. And in that series, the funny thing is that the selectors said, "No, stuff you, Steve Smith. Yes, you're doing okay as an opener, but we want you at number 4 where you can do really well." And so they wouldn't let him open. Labuschagne didn't want to. Travis Head didn't want to. So what they did was that they decided to essentially advertise for an opening position. Problem was that the only reason there was even a vacancy was because Cameron Green became injured and took a year off. He's recently just come back, and people forget that the vacancy was actually as a bowling all-rounder, or batting all-rounder, I suppose, but you needed him to bowl. Mitchell Marsh couldn't bowl because he'd injured himself, so we needed to have a batting all-rounder, and so we should have actually been advertising for that batting all-rounder. Now, the candidates, Michael Neser was injured, Aaron Hardy was injured, Cameron Green was still off injured, Mitchell Marsh was still injured, so we should have had Beau Webster in the first test. And we've all seen how well Beau Webster's done. Now, I know he wasn't really at the top of the pecking order because you've kind of had Cameron Green and Mitchell Marsh at the top, and then you kind of had either Michael Neser or Aaron Hardy as 3 and 4. So Beau Webster was way down as 5th best all-rounder for test level, and suddenly he's the best option, and he has done well. We can't deny that he has come from nowhere and done really well. But we should have really had a test for the bat off, if you like, should have been for the all-rounder position. We should have kept Steve Smith opening, but we didn't. So instead we had 4 players. We had Cameron Bancroft, who we may know he tampered with the ball, and he's been horrible at test level. He was horrible before he tampered with the ball. That's why he tampered with the ball. But he has done decently well at first class level, but he's still got a terrible test record. Then we had Marcus Harris, didn't have the ball tampering issue, but otherwise has been terrible at test level. And then we had Sam Constance, who was in that 4-way mix-up, that 4-way bat-off, because he was in his first season. He just scored 2 centuries in the same match just before the test series. So he suddenly averaged 55, I think it was, and there was this thought, well, he's in form, let's just shove him straight in the test team. So the audition essentially was for Sam Constance. Now, Sam Constance I think he averaged about 23 in that series. It was very low scoring, and his was actually the best scoring of the people who opened the batting. which were the three of them. But they decided to pick Nathan McSweeney, who didn't open the batting and has never opened the batting before, picked him as an opener because he got more runs. Now, by that logic, they should have actually picked Cooper Connolly, who got the most runs in the 2 matches for Australia. He got the most runs, but he was batting at 5 and 6. In fact, I think that Michael Neser did better as well, but then he injured himself mid-series. It was a strange way to decide that Nathan McSweeney should play, and it was the wrong way. I'd say that the selectors didn't really think it through. It was a stupid decision because firstly, they were missing an all-rounder, not an opener, and secondly, it was actually Cooper Connolly that got the most runs, and out of the 4 of them, well, yes, Nathan McSweeney did get the most runs, but he didn't get the most runs opening. That was Sam Constas. Because when McSweeney did open for Australia A, and he did it once, he failed. He got his runs at 3 and 4. So there were a lot of issues with the selection of Nathan McSweeney, and he failed. He had 3 full tests and he completely stuffed it up. Now, of course, they then required Mitchell Marsh to bowl. That didn't work because Mitchell Marsh has a sore shoulder, and because of that he injured himself so badly he couldn't even bat, and eventually had to be dropped, and then we got Beau Webster in. Now, which was really unfair to Mitchell Marsh. A lot of people forget Mitchell Marsh did really well as a batsman and was up there with Travis Head before that series. So it's, we ruined one good player because we needed them to bowl because we refused to pick an all-rounder because we were going for an opener. So the selectors really messed up. I don't need to understate that. That was a major mess up. But even having the 4-way bat off, a 2-way bat off's one thing, that's fine. But it should be more based on form. And on form, if they were going to pick an opener, it should have been Sam Constas. And he should have played in the first test. Instead, he played in the 4th. Now, that makes it easier for Constas, and you saw how well Constas did in the 4th test. He was brilliant. And I mean, a lot of people say, oh, no, he didn't do that well. It was only 60. It was very risky. It basically won us the match. It set up the match. Then others came in and got their centuries, and we won the match and the series against India. And we might have lost. In fact, we've lost the last 2 home series against India. Now, a lot of that I'd say, well, we were missing Smith and Warner in one of the series, and because of the ball tampering. The sandpaper thing done by, not by either Smith or Warner, it was done by Cameron Bancroft, but they took the fall for it. They took the penalty, just crazy, but anyway, I've gone over that separately. But the thing is that when you look at that, and you look at how stupid it was to be going for an opening batsman when we needed a bowling option. And we need the bowling option because our 3 big fast bowlers, so that's Stark, Cummins and Hazelwood, are all strike bowlers. So they're all bowlers that can bowl 4 or 5 overs and then they get tired. And they need somebody else to come in. And that somebody else needs to be, well, it can't be Nathan Lyon. Okay, he bowls spin, but you need another pace bowler that can just tie up one end. Mitchell Marsh did that. Cameron Green did that. Cameron Green did that again. And, and we need to have someone there. Now, whether it's Michael Neser, whether it's someone else, we need to have that because we don't have that top level line and length bowler. Now we do, in Scott Boland. He can bowl forever. But we can't play Boland as our 4th bowling option when we have in the 3rd test. And so we don't need to have a Beau Webster. But yeah, so it was a really bad decision and it put everybody in a tough position. But they finally worked it out by the 4th test, and then by the 5th they had Beau Webster. We had the perfect team. We should have then gone to Sri Lanka with those 2 tests with the same team, minus Pat Cummins, who was, I think his wife had a daughter or child, and then he became injured while he was looking after the child. It seemed a bit strange. But anyway, he was missing, and so we've had back in Kuhnemann. But otherwise, for the batting, we should have had the same team. But instead, Steve Smith took over and he said no to Sam Constant. So because of that, we had to have Travis Head open, and then we slotted Josh Inglis in at number 4. And Josh Inglis did well. What was he, 3? Yeah, Josh Inglis, he got a century on debut, and then he injured his back and got out for a duck, and then he couldn't play in the second test against Sri Lanka. So that should have been Sam Constant, not Josh Inglis, and it should have been Sam Constant opening. There was no reason not to play him. No reason whatsoever. I know people say, oh, but he didn't do that well. No, you people are idiots. He should have been playing for stability, and he did do well enough. Anyway, so because of that, Sam Constant is a very confused person. He's like, why am I not playing? And then when Josh Inglis got injured, no, they didn't bring Sam Constant in. They brought in Cooper Connolly, who did abysmally badly. Probably won't play tests again. I don't know, maybe he will in 5 years, but Cooper Connolly was a disaster. We still won, but Cooper Connolly was not the reason for it. He was an absolute disaster. And he had a great record before that, but he just didn't look test level. I'm sorry. Sam Constant did. Nathan McSweeney didn't either, certainly not as an opener. So Cooper Connolly and Nathan McSweeney were disasters. I'd say Cooper Connolly was a bigger disaster, but they were both absolute disasters. Sam Constant was not. He was a revelation. He was wonderful. But the problem was that they stuffed him up. They didn't have him go to Sri Lanka. And then we went to the World Test Championship. We couldn't have Josh Inglis. We couldn't have Nathan McSweeney. We couldn't have Cooper Connolly. Sam Constant were going to play, yeah? No. They put Marnus Labuschagne into open because they wanted to play Cameron Green, because he scored, I think, 4 county championship centuries in that season, even though he wasn't bowling. And Sam Constant missed out. And we lost. Now, did we lose because Sam Constant wasn't playing? Maybe. I think that's that's a serious conversation. There's a possibility that we lost because he wasn't playing. And so Marnus Labuschagne opened. He didn't want to open, but he had to. It was either that or he was dumped. He opened, he did what he was told to do, and then he was dumped. And we've gone to West Indies, and they said, Sam, we've hated you for the last 3 tests for no reason. Now we're going to bring you in for no reason and make you open for no reason and give you 3 tests for no reason, but we suddenly love you. And he was completely confused. And he looked like a player who was confused. He didn't look bad. You've got to say, he did look test level. He didn't look bad, but he looked like a player who was confused. And I'm not going to go over his scores or his modes of dismissal. It was twice, I think, he chopped on. There were some strange dismissals, but he wasn't like Sean Marsh getting out for duck, not looking like scoring a run. He wasn't like Cooper Connolly, who looked completely out of... No, and he wasn't even like Nathan McSweeney against India. He wasn't as bad as all of them. He was looking like someone who didn't know where he belonged, who'd been given confusing mixed messages. Now this reminds me of when Shane Watson was playing. Now Shane Watson, for people who are not aware, is probably statistically Australia's best ever all-rounder, or certainly pretty much on par with Keith Miller. But while Keith Miller knew where he was, Shane Watson had no idea, because they were like, oh, you're an all-rounder, you can play one-day international cricket. And he didn't know how to play one-day internationals. He was a test man, and they wouldn't let him play tests. So they said, oh, you're going to play in the middle order. He's like, oh, I play at number 4. They're like, oh, we'll get you to bowl a couple of overs here and then. He says, no, I open the bowling. So they wouldn't let him be himself. And so because of that, he was given quite confusing mixed messages. And then eventually he went, stuff it, I'm going to decide myself what I want to do. And what he wanted to do, he decided he would open. So he opened in a test match. They gave him a shot and he did really well. He opened the batting and he bowled, I think he was bowling first change. And this was a role that he could fulfill. Now he's still stuffed up a bit, but he did a lot better. He opened in T20s, partnered with David Warner, and Australia went from being pretty hopeless at T20s to being really good. And so he understood where he was. Glenn Maxwell had a similar issue. He didn't know who he was. They didn't know what to do with him, and now he knows what he's doing. And sometimes it can take a while, particularly when the selectors mess up this much. It takes a while for you to learn what you're doing. Now, I see a lot of potential in Sam Constant. how he handled himself in T20s, in T20 domestics I'm talking about, and one-day internationals, he's got a lot of future. And how he handled himself in his test debut against Jasper Bumrah, who's the best bowler in the world at the moment, was just amazing. He won us the series. I don't think there's any doubt that without him coming in for that fourth test match, we would have lost the series against India. There's no doubt in my mind that that is the case. Now, okay, Travis Head had a much better series, but it was that selection that won us the series, and eventually, Beau Webster as well. But for me, so he was given 3 full tests, he's failed. I think we have to drop him now. So for me, who replaces him? For me, I think Josh Inglis will come in as an opener. He has opened at first class level. He wants to open. He's happy to open, and he can come in and be the opener until Alex Carey retires as a wicketkeeper, and then Josh Inglis will come in. And so he's going to open. For me, I'd be saying to Sam Constance, sorry mate, you're out. And I'd play Josh Inglis whenever we play next to test matches. Josh Inglis is coming in. He's opening. And we're doing that now. Sam Constance, what I might do for him is I might say, okay, if you do well enough, we might give you a shot at T20s for Australia, T20 internationals, maybe one-day internationals. I think it's more likely going to be T20s, maybe both. And if he does well there, shows some temperament and works out who he is, because he doesn't know who he is right now. Now, had the selectors not stuffed him around, maybe he would have been okay. But as it is, we can't go back in time. The selectors have stuffed him around, but the reality is he is stuffed around. He is a confused player. We can't just continue on with it. Now, I would have said the same thing was true of Cameron Green in this series and also the World Test Championship until the second test probably. Second test against West Indies. So he had 2 really terrible tests where he looked appalling. He now is looking good. I'm happy to keep Cameron Green in the side. So Josh Inglis for me is slotting in as an opener. And who knows, that might not work either, but I think there's some chance it will. And Sam Constance for me is gone. I'm just kicking him out. Now, that's not to say he'll never play again, but I don't want to even think about him. Not for tests. Now, I might think about him in T20s. I might think about him in ODIs, but I'm kicking him out of the test. Even in the thought process, he's gone. He's gone for me. He's someone not in the picture, at least not for the next year or so, maybe longer. So, he's 19, he's had 1 season, he's got that experience. Maybe it'll trigger somehow and he'll become really good eventually. We do need a test player. We need a test opener. We need him to be good, but we needed, who was that guy? Will Pucovski, probably Australia's best opener since probably Matthew Hayden. And then he kept getting concussed. We can't help if these things happen. We needed him, but he didn't. He kept getting concussed. Now he's just a commentator and that's it. We can't have someone die. We don't want to have another Phil Hughes. So, took the right move. Took him out of there. So Sam Constance, to me, he needs to be out of there. And I think you don't give him a pathway even. You just say, it's up to you. You've got to work out who you are. Because he's failed in this test series. He didn't fail against India. He did really well, I think. But mixed messaging, it is the selectors' fault, but they did the same thing to Shane Watson. They've done the same thing to a few people. Even Matthew Hayden, they did the same thing. Mixed messaging with him. But you've got to work it out. You've got to work it out. He's got to work out who he is, and he's got to come back. And if he can't come back, then he's not test level. That's it. But if he can work it out, he can come back and he can be good. Michael Bevan, for example, he was someone got mixed messaging. He was playing as a bowler, one of the greatest one-day international batsmen of all time, and Kate was playing as a bowler in tests. And he got confused and he never figured it out. So Sam Constance, maybe he'll work it out as a T20 batsman. Who knows? But we can't just keep him going like this. There is a thought process to give him another series where hopefully it's easier for batting, but if he'd gone to Sri Lanka and failed there, I don't think we'd be even having this discussion. But because they were easy batting conditions. But you know, it's just, he's just got to figure things out for himself. He's got to work out who he is, what he wants to do, and then work that out. Anyway, that's it from me. Bye bye now.